So the trucks arrive full and leave full. That's just a general rule of thumb for any landscaping, is that you're making efficient use of the vehicles. Arrange the soil and debris in and out of the property. So if there's a big cleanup to do, you have to get rid of trees or stumps, all that kind of thing. Well, then it's all got to go out. So the location to get rid of clean fill is always a problem, especially here in the Okanagan. The distances are far, and sometimes you're really lucky and you could be working right beside a place where you can dump all your stuff, but not usually. Usually it's like the other side of the lake or somewhere far away from where you're working, and you just have to plan for that. It's going to cost some money for sure. So we're trying not to drive over these areas that were decompacted, and we're going to try to accomplish all excavation in one visit when excavators are there, so that machines can be actually physically working. When the trucks come in, we're able to load a truck, get it out. Whether it's compost, we have to sort compost with other mineral materials, so they all have to be sorted, loaded, and then ideally when we're done, we're done. So trying to accomplish all excavation in one visit and have a list of the jobs to do, carefully planned as part of your planning process, so that everything can be done at one time. Soft spots in the roads will show up after several truckloads, and that's just something that happens. It starts pushing up water from underneath, and you're going to see that anytime the roads are potentially moist at all, and especially in the springtime. So remember that you have your load restrictions that come on. I have an email that comes to my email, and it comes in every day, every second day, and it just tells me where the road restrictions are. So if there's weight restrictions, the truckers are only allowed to carry sometimes 50%, 60%, or 70% of their maximum loads. So soil calculators are available online. Just remember that soil expands when it's dug up and will settle and compress when you put it down. So if your driveway is approximately 5,000 square feet, so for every inch of material you remove, you will remove approximately 20 yards of material. So that's just one of these things, that when you take soil and you squish it all down and take all the air out of it, you know, it's pretty compacted. But then when you start loosening it up, it fluffs up and it grows back. It gets this volume back, right? So I usually plan about 25% like a fluff factor and a compression factor. So that just means that, you know, where you want to finish off your height, you do your calculation and plan on 25% of it's just going to squish down to nothing. Or on the other hand, when I'm excavating it out, I'll just add at least 25% onto that number to calculate how much we're taking out. So protect the soil from overcompaction. Again, every time we're doing this, we'll keep talking about protecting the soil. 6 to 10 inches of topsoil is what's recommended for lawns, and 12 to 14 inches for shrubbery, assuming that there's nothing to start with. But the best thing is that when you're blending some of this topsoil with your subsoil, you're just increasing that. You're making that whole zone much more friendly to plants, right? So when it comes to a berm, if you put 2 feet of soil on it, but you've already scratched that up and roughed it up before you put the berm in, well, then you've got 36 inches of nice soil for plants to root into. And then that's water conservation, right? All this stuff we're doing, that's for future water conservation. So when you put water down, the water soaks in and it gets down deep and it stays there for a bit of time. Remember that it's only those particles, those air spaces in the soil where water is trapped. So if you don't have any air spaces, you can't hold water in the soil. And then the plants have to be able to access that. So the only way that plants can access it is those little air spaces, little particles, so that they can actually absorb water and access it. They need oxygen. Roots breathe oxygen, so no oxygen, no roots. And that's why all this work is done, right? So soil's in and out. The soil displacement of a pool is approximately 80 yards. That's just a number. But if you do a pool, you're probably going to end up with 80 yards of stuff that's going to come out of it. Some of the material excavated will be used to build up around the pool or saved for future landscaping. So that's where, again, if you're digging a hole, you see the stuff that's coming out and you can sort it. So you can say, hey, drain rock. Wow, this is all beautiful drain rock down here, like 2-inch perfect drain rock. Make a pile. You know, some big boulders. Well, these are good landscaping boulders. Set those aside. And the big pile of topsoil that came off the surface, we'll put it in a pile. And then what you end up with is you can often recycle and reuse a lot of that stuff. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's really bad, depending where it comes from. New soil, soil ranges in price based on its makeup. Regular screen topsoil is usually around $22 per yard, plus minus. Quality blends can run anywhere from $30 to $50 per yard. So, it gets to be fairly expensive. Poor existing soils can be amended or made better by adding compost and sand, and can be reused on the same property, again, if it's found to save time and money. So sometimes it's not worth it because it's quicker just to get rid of it than it is to play with it. But what I like to do is I like to get a really high quality blended topsoil, something that's got everything in it that I want, and it's got maybe a little bit too much compost. Possibly as much as 20 or 25% compost, which would be too much. But it's a little bit rich. And then take that and blend it with your existing soils. Now you've got this really nice mix. You've only got about a 5 to 10% organic matter content, and you've reutilized that existing soil. But how you do that is with the excavator, right?